The desert air in Beersheba was cool at dusk, the heat of the day bleeding into the sand. Isaac, old now and blind in more ways than one, felt the weight in his hands before he identified it. It wasn't the ceremonial robe, heavy with embroidery. It wasn't the staff, gnarled from his father's long walks with God. It was a simple water skin, old leather gone stiff and brittle. His father, Abraham, had given it to him on the day they returned from the mountain. Isaac had been a boy, silent and hollowed out, his eyes fixed on a spot just beyond his father's shoulder. Abraham's hands, which had bound him with such terrifying efficiency, had trembled as he pressed the skin into Isaac's arms. Water from the well of the oath, Abraham had rasped, his voice raw from disuse. It is part of the promise. Isaac had never drunk from it. The smell of the leather, of dust and donkey, and the dry wood of an altar had always been too strong. It sat in his tent, an heirloom of a story no one told. Now, his own tent was thick with the smell of roasted kid and the lie his son Jacob had woven into its very fabric. He had felt the goat hair on Jacob's smooth hands, heard the voice straining to be rough like Esau's. He had spoken the blessing, the words of the covenant, onto the wrong head. The promise had been stolen, like a birthright before it. A fury colder than any well water rose in him. But as it crested, it broke against a memory. His own body laid on a pile of wood, his father's face a mask of anguish and obedience, the knife catching the brutal son. Chosen. The word was not a crown. It was a knife. It was a lie told in a tent. It was a father forced to break his son to please a voice. The covenant was a river that carved its path through their family, and it cut deep, leaving canyons of resentment and grief between brothers, between fathers and sons. Esau's roar of betrayal echoed from the field. Jacob had fled, a thief of his own future. Isaac was alone, holding the empty water skin. He understood now. The heirloom wasn't the blessing. The heirloom was the cost. The water skin was empty, because the promise was always thirsty. It demanded faith, but it fed on sacrifice. It asked for trust, but it flourished in betrayal. His father had paid with the near death of his son. He had paid with the loss of his wife's laughter, which died the day they walked up the mountain. Now Isaac had paid with the unity of his own two boys, and Jacob, the deceiver who now bore the weight of the promise, he would pay in exile, in fear, in wrestling angels by a lonely river. Isaac brought the stiff leather to his face. He did not smell water. He smelled the mountain, the fire, the rope. He smelled the grease of the goat his son had cooked, the scent of a desperate, flawed love trying to grasp a destiny too large for any one man to hold. The promise would live. It would wind its way to Egypt, through slavery and deliverance. It would survive. But here, in the tent, Isaac finally saw the transaction. God got a people. Abraham got a test. He got a trauma. And his sons got a legacy of strife, all for a land they didn't yet own and a future they would not live to see. He placed the water skin back in its corner. It was not a treasure. It was an accounting, a receipt for a price paid in advance by generations yet unborn. Outside, the wind picked up, whispering across the desert, carrying the sound of Esau's weeping and the first footsteps of Jacob's long, costly flight. The covenant marched on.